Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us when we can on Thursdays at 3:30. Sometimes we change that up because he's a busy man, as a lot of things, of course, in college football today were interesting. Sam, thank you very much for your time. Your thoughts about the news today with Washington State, Oregon State, and 4 Mountain West schools joining at the hip.
Like I always say when I join you guys, I wish this wasn't happening during the season. I would prefer that this happened in the off season. I don't like this habit of September realignment, but I am happy for Oregon State and Washington State because they're now going to reform a conference that they can be a part of, as opposed to just this 2-team cooperation, I guess you could say, that they've had since the Pac-12 fell apart. And then I'm also happy for these other schools that are just getting added, because even though I don't know how much of an upgrade it is over the Mountain West Conference, but you guys touched on it earlier, I think just having that association with the Pac-12 brand will be nice. And the one good thing about this realignment is that it doesn't really mess with geography. It's geographically appropriate, and I like that. Let's keep it that way. When they get to 8, how about let's add some more Western United States schools? That would be my preference personally.
Sam, how far east do you think they should reasonably go?
I wouldn't really go farther east than, I guess if you want to get the Dakotas in there, if they want to do the North Dakota State, South Dakota, or whatever, North Dakota State, I guess I could see that. I wouldn't really go further than that, though. I've heard people talk about Memphis and Tulane, and I understand that because programs like Memphis or Tulane or even South Florida seem to be like your next up in the group of 5 to power conference move. And not that this is a power conference, but to me, that just seems like such an awkward fit. I guess maybe the furthest west I would go would be Texas. If you wanted to come in and get a UTSA or a Texas State or somebody like that, I guess I can see it. But I think they're better off with either UNLV, Air Force, Wyoming, New Mexico, holding out hope maybe that Cal and Stanford decide to go back from the ACC. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. But I would try to keep it as regional as possible, because this is not a conference that's going to generate the kind of TV revenue that's going to offset the travel money, in my opinion, especially as we get into this revenue share era where schools are going to be directly sharing revenue with the athletes. To me, it makes it that much more important that if you're not a Power 4 school that's generating that kind of money, that you really watch your costs.
Sam, you mentioned it there. What does this have, what kind of an effect does this have on the Texas schools? I mean, what do you think? Is UTSA getting their troops lined up right now and getting all their ducks in a row? And is Texas State doing the same thing? I mean, there's only so many open windows, right? And this is one that nobody really thought was going to be open until late last night. So
North Texas,
yeah. I guess as well. But yeah, just kind of what are your thoughts on the immediate reaction from a Texas perspective?
Yeah, I think you stay ready and you evaluate it and see if it makes sense for you. I would ask, I don't know if it does make more sense than being in the conference that they're in, certainly for UTSA, because UTSA is in a conference with other Texas schools, with North Texas and with Rice. So does it really make sense to go with a whole group of Western schools? I don't know. But I also understand it's going to come down to money. Will the money be better for this new Pac-12 as opposed to what the American currently gives? I don't know the answer to that question. I guess it would be, but that ultimately is the answer for your Texas State. Texas State's not a great geographic fit for the Sun Belt because there's no other Texas schools in it. Certainly there's some Louisiana schools, but they've always seemed to be a weird fit in that league. So I guess I could understand it more from their perspective. Even I'll tell you one school who would love to have it that would be a geographically more appropriate would be UTEP. UTEP would love probably a spot in that. I don't think they're going to be an option. I don't think the Pac-12 is going to look at them in that way, but they were once grouped with WAC schools and Mountain West schools. So they would seem to make a little more geographic sense. But if you're UTSA and you're North Texas, you're Texas State, you stay ready. And if the offer comes and the money is better than what you're getting, then yeah, I understand why you would do it.
What are your thoughts on the games this weekend? But Cam Rising's out against Utah State, and that's a game Utah's favored to win, but that he just can't seem, no matter what, even if it's a this is kind of a cut or something on his hand. He can't seem to stay healthy. And when he's healthy, they are so good. They're good without him, but they're really good with him.
Yeah, to me, when he's not in, that really makes things a little unsettled for Utah. That I thought they were able to piece it together so well without him, and I was really impressed with how they kind of smoke and mirrors that whole thing when he was out for so long last year. And I trust Kyle Whittingham to do that. Now, this is a unique situation though this week because you're going against an in-state rival. It's the first time they've played this game since 2015. It's the first time they've gone to Logan since 2012. So that fan base that they turn out for their games. And I know they have a really good student section too. So I'll be interested to see how this one goes with them out. But I suspect that Utah will manage just fine. And if it's just a 1 week thing and Cam's back, then I think you still look at Utah as the favorite going into conference play.
Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, with us on 365 Sports.
Sam, A&M travels to Gainesville this week. The Gators opening with 3 home games. They had one really bad one and then one really good one against Samford. And I know you can't put too many eggs in the Samford basket, but that was DJ Lagway's debut. How much does your view of A&M's chances in this game change? Because I don't think Durham Mertz is even out of the protocol completely yet. DJ Lagway might start and play this whole game. Does that change your view of how this could go?
Yeah, absolutely, because he's a wild card just because you just don't have a ton of film on him. Certainly, Texas A&M knows him, and Mike Elko knows him because they recruited him. They tried to get him late here in the process before he ended up enrolling at Florida as a recruit, and he's a tremendous talent. I can't see, even if Graham Mertz is healthy, I can't see if you're Billy Napier how you could justify keeping DJ Lagway off the field. That offense just looks so much better. And I get it that it was a different level of an opponent last week, but I don't know what you gain by putting Mertz back in there this week, especially
he wouldn't
after
have thrown for 400 yards. He would not have thrown for 400 yards against Samford.
No. And DJ is not like most true freshmen. Like, he is physically put together like a grown man. Like, he's ready to play. Like, if anybody has seen him in person, he's big, barrel-chested, a really terrific arm. Like, he's got all the physical traits to do it. It's just going to be the mental side that is tough for any true freshman starting in major college football. And if I'm Mike Elko, yeah, I'm probably trying to light him up. You've got a really good pass rush. You've got a really good defensive front. If they go that way, I would try to do that. I think you try to do that anyway if you're Elko, but especially with a true freshman, you're going to try and disguise things and mix it up and pressure them as much as you can. But I think you have a better shot if you're Florida if you play Lagway than if you don't. And A&M, this is a really critical test for them because we saw what happened with Notre Dame. Obviously, they blew out Nichols last week, or McNeese State, I'm sorry, which they should have. But this is kind of more a better barometer to tell us which direction this program is going to go in year one of Mike Elko era.
Sam, we were just talking about Texas State when it comes to realignment. What's your interest level tonight? Sun Devils heading to San Marcos to take on G.J. Kinney and Jordan McLeod, who are obviously a hot brand right now. This is a really intriguing game to me.
This is, to me, part of the beauty of the 12-team playoff now is because this is a game with playoff stakes because Texas State is one of those teams in the group of 5 that's going to contend for that spot. And if they're going to contend for that spot, a win tonight would be really huge on their resume, having that power conference win, because they don't have any other power conference teams on their schedule, I don't believe. So getting this win tonight would be huge for them. And, oh, by the way, I hate to say it, but we all know it's reality. This will also be a big addition to G.J. Kinney's resume because, if they go that way and they're a playoff contender, there's going to be some programs that are going to be looking at him this offseason as their potential head coach. On the flip side, Arizona State, I think, has been maybe the biggest surprise in the Big 12. We had them picked at 16th to start the preseason poll in the Big 12, and they've looked really good. I thought they looked really clean and disciplined in the opener against Wyoming. And then against Mississippi State, obviously Mississippi State crawled back in that game, but they were well in control of that game into midway in the third quarter before Mississippi State started creeping back in. I've been really impressed with how much better this Arizona State team has looked in year 2 under Kelly Dillingham so far. So this is a really intriguing game, one I'm definitely watching tonight.
By the way, on this thing with the Pac-2, now the Pac, what will be 6, 8, 10, 12, that the group of 5, which is, I guess, the highest ranked group of 5 playoff team, it's about to be a group of what, 6?
Probably, yeah. I don't think
So
they
group
will
of 5,
get that
Mike
status.
Oresco hated group of 5. Some of those schools. So now they get to change that perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get power conference status. Not that that's the thing about that is that's not even official.
Yeah.
The Autonomy 5 was official,
Mhm.
and I don't think the Pac-12 is part of that anymore.
No.
And certainly this version of the Pac-12 is probably not going to get that status. But they're not. Let's be honest. They're not the college playoff. College football playoff is not going to guarantee a spot for that league. That's just reality. As much as I would love them to guarantee a spot for every conference champion, but I live in fantasy land and no one's going to do that.
Yeah. Sam, I think that the Pac-12 should just do what politicians do and double down on something until people believe it enough. Be like, I believe in in this thing so much. And then people are like, well, why do you like candidate A? It's like, well, he believes in this. You're like, well, he's never voted that way. I mean, but but if you say it enough, and if they say, hey, we're an autonomy conference, maybe the others will be like, well, damn, I guess they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, you mentioned Arizona State as the biggest surprise. Who's been the biggest disappointment? And I know it's early, but Kansas lost. Obviously, West Virginia blew a tire against Penn State. Cincinnati had Pitt dead to rights and didn't finish it off. Who has been, in your opinion, or Tech, with what's happened with them? They could be easily 0-2. Your thoughts on the one that right now has underperformed the most?
Texas Tech by far, because they had to go to overtime to beat Abilene Christian. They did not look great at Washington State. And now for the second straight season, they have limped out of the gate. They're close to the bottom 10 in the country in penalties. They're in the bottom 10 country in yards per play defensively. They're 2 for 8 on fourth downs, which was a thing that had been working for that program for the first 2 years, the Joey McGuire era. They have been terribly disappointing, in my opinion, and they have got to get it fixed. This is a must-win for them against North Texas, and I know it's North Texas, but North Texas is 2-0 and looks a lot better right now. And the former Mike Leach protege Eric Morris comes to town, so that's going to be really interesting to see. But they have got to get it together, because to me, the biggest disappointment to me is not just that they're 1-1 and they had to fight to beat Abilene Christian. It's that they have just looked undisciplined and sloppy, not plugging gaps in the run game. The penalties have been a mess, which were a mess at the start of last year until they got it corrected. And then just they've had a lot of injuries as well. But to me, it's the way they've played as opposed to just the results that has been really disappointing, in my opinion.
Sam, how surprised were you by what Houston was able to do last week? I mean, you talk about going from the bottom to not the top, but man, it felt like they were on their way there with that potential upset last week. I know it's got to be crushing to not win that game, given how close you were, but still, man, that's got to be really a feel-good thing for Willie Fritz moving forward based on how week 1 went.
Yeah, because I think after week 1, we all kind of wrote them off. I certainly did. I saw them lose by 20 at home, and that the 7 points that they got late in that game against UNLV, I think, was what the backups were in. So I looked at this as like, wow, this is going to be a really rough season. I don't think my view on that has changed, but I think for Willie Fritz, there's a little bit of proof of concept in there that you can sell to your team that says, look, here's what we did, and here's how close we came against a top 15 team. I don't know if OU really is a top 15 team, and I've got my own questions about them through 2 weeks. And they've got a really tough one with Tulane this week. But you see how they played defensively, and you see how tough Houston stayed in that game. I think you have to take that as a really huge positive. I don't know how many games they're going to win. I don't think they're even going to be a bowl team this year. But that's something, as you're trying to build the foundation of this program, that I think Willie Fritz can show to his players and say, hey, we can build off this. We are not as far away as everyone else thinks we are.
Sam, greatness. Thank you very much. Appreciate your segment with us and really look forward to it. Sam Conn, theathletic.com.